Chinese space rocket crashes in fiery explosion after launch. Iran's presidential election goes to a runoff. Suspected female suicide bombers kill at least 18 in Nigeria. Bolivia makes multiple arrests following failed coup. 2 wildfires burning near Greece's capital. First Black African rider wins Tour de France.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It's July 2nd, Tuesday, and here are your top stories. Beijing Tianbing Technology said Sunday that the first stage of its Tianlong 3 rocket under development had detached from its launch pad during a test due to structural failure and landed in a hilly area of the city of Gongyi in central China. Beijing Tianbing, also known as Space Pioneer, said in a statement on its official WeChat account that there were no reports of casualties after an initial investigation. According to the Gongyi Emergency Management Bureau, parts of the rocket stage were scattered within a safe area but caused a local fire. The fire has since been extinguished and no one has been hurt.
The 2-stage Tianlong-3 Sky Dragon 3 inches is a partly reusable rocket under development by Space Pioneer, one of a small group of private sector rocket makers that have grown rapidly over the past 5 years. Falling rocket debris in China after launches is not unheard of, but it is very rare for part of a rocket under development to make an unplanned flight out of its test site and crash. According to Space Pioneer, the first stage of the Tianlong-3 ignited normally during a hot test but later detached from the test bench due to structural failure and landed in hilly areas close to a mile away. A rocket can consist of several stages, with the first or lowest stage igniting and propelling the rocket upwards upon its launch.
Iran will hold a runoff presidential election pitting a little-known reformist against a hardline former nuclear negotiator after results released Saturday show the lowest-ever poll turnout in the Islamic Republic's history. More than 60% of voters cast a no ballot in the race that saw reformist Masoud Pezeshkian best Saeed Jalili, who competed alongside 2 other hardliners. With Jalili now alone in facing the cardiac surgeon, Pezeshkian's campaign must mobilize voters for the July 5th runoff. Public anger heartens following years of Iran facing economic hardships and mass protests under its Shiite theocracy.
Of the 24.5 million votes cast in Friday's election, Pezeshkian got 10.4 million while Jalili received 9.4 million. Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Khalibaf got 3.3 million, while Shiite cleric Mustafa Pourmohammadi had over 206,000 votes. Iranian law requires that a winner gets more than 50% of all votes cast. If not, the race's top 2 candidates advance to a runoff a week later. There has been only one other runoff presidential election in Iran's history, in 2005. When hardliner Mahmoud Ahmadinejad bested former President Akbar Hashemi Rafsanjani. As has been the case since the 1979 Islamic Revolution, women and those calling for radical change have been barred from running, while the vote itself will have no oversight from internationally recognized monitors.
Local authorities said Sunday that female suicide bombers targeted a wedding, a funeral, and a hospital in coordinated attacks in northern Nigeria, killing at least 18 people. No one immediately claimed responsibility for the attacks in Borno State, which has been heavily affected by the insurgency launched in 2009 by Boko Haram. The extremist group has previously used women and girls in suicide bombings, prompting suspicions that some attackers come from the many thousands of people the militants have kidnapped over the years, including school children.
The first suicide bomber detonated a device during a marriage celebration in the northeastern town of Gwoja. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu said in a statement that the attacks were desperate acts of terror and an isolated episode. The insurgency, which has spilled across borders around Lake Chad, has killed more than 35,000 people, displaced 2.6 million others, and created a humanitarian crisis. Boko Haram, with one branch allied to the Islamic State group, aims to install an Islamic State in Nigeria, West Africa's oil giant of 170 million people divided almost equally between a mainly Christian South and a predominantly Muslim North. The resurgence of suicide bombings in Borno has raised significant concerns about the security situation in the region.
Bolivia has arrested more than a dozen high-ranking military and intelligence officials following a failed attempt to unseat the country's president in a coup allegedly led by its former army chief. Military officials first held meetings in May to plot the coup attempt that occurred on Wednesday, which involved mobilizing armed forces toward the capital's main square and seizing power by force. 17 people arrested so far in connection with Wednesday's events. Other top officials arrested include military intelligence chief Julio Buitrago.
The coup attempt, condemned by the Bolivian government and international leaders, occurred amidst economic crisis and political instability in the South American country, home to roughly 12 million people. On Wednesday, military units led by Zúñiga, fired as commander of the Bolivian army just a day earlier, occupied La Paz's main Murillo Plaza. Armored vehicles rammed the presidential palace door, and soldiers attempted to break into government offices. Hours later, President Luis Arce confronted Zúñiga in the crowded palace hallway, ordering the general to withdraw his soldiers and stand down. Arce, in power since 2020, later declared victory to crowds in front of the Quemado Palace after Zúñiga was handcuffed and forced into a police car.
Two large wildfires were burning near Greece's capital of Athens on Sunday, prompting authorities to send emergency messages. Some residents were instructed to evacuate, while others were advised to stay at home and close their windows to protect themselves from smoke. The first blaze southeast of Athens started in the early afternoon. Local authorities reported it had destroyed at least 4 homes and several cars by 6 p.m. No casualties were reported. The fire was nearing the port of Lavrio, approximately 60 kilometers southeast of Athens.
The area has suffered from wildfires in recent years. A small forest to the south, near Cape Sunio, could also be in danger. A second, fast-moving fire later began north of Athens near the suburb of Stamata. It is burning through scrubland and forest, moving up 1,100-meter, 3,600-foot, Mount Penteli, one of 4 mountains ringing the capital area. A total of 230 firefighters, 17 planes and 12 helicopters are trying to extinguish both fires. The planes and helicopters can only operate in daylight. Hot and dry weather, combined with strong winds, is helping to spread the fires. Temperatures in the low 30s Celsius, high 80s F, are expected to rise on Monday and Tuesday. Wildfires have become an annual occurrence in the Mediterranean. Earlier this month, Greece and Turkey experienced large fires.
Eritrean rider Binim Girmay made history on Monday as the first Black African rider to win a Tour de France stage. Sprinting to victory in the third stage, Girmay dedicated his win for all Africans 2 years ago in Italy. He also became the first Black African to win a stage at the Giro d'Italia, a grand tour encompassing the Giro, the Tour, and the Spanish Volta. However, Girmay's Giro victory was marred when he was rushed to a hospital after a Prosecco cork hit his left eye during the podium celebration, forcing him to abandon the race.
Meanwhile, Mark Cavendish's pursuit of a record-breaking 35th stage win was postponed due to a crash ahead of him in the finale, while Olympic champion Richard Carapaz took the yellow jersey from Tadej Pogačar, becoming the first Ecuadorian to lead cycling's biggest race. The mostly flat 231-kilometer, 144-mile leg from Piacenza to Turin, the longest stage of this year's tour, offered the first chance for a mass sprint. However, there will be several other opportunities for sprinters as the race returns to France after the initial 4 stages in Italy. Girmay finished just ahead of Fernando Gaviria and Arnaud Delay. Cavendish crossed the line 113th but was awarded the same finishing time as Girmay, following rules that neutralize times in case of crashes within the final 5 kilometers.
The answer for yesterday was A, understatement. To say I'm disappointed is an understatement. Did you answer correctly? Now let's delve into the news of Chinese space rocket crashes in fiery explosion after launch. Number 1, casualty. 战争或事故的伤患、亡者、遇难者。Both sides had suffered heavy casualties. Number 2, detach. 拆卸、分开、使脱离。Detach the coupon and return it as soon as possible. Number 3, debris. 残骸、碎片、破片。Emergency teams are still clearing the debris from the plane crash. Next, we have a multiple choice question for everyone to practice. Which answer would you choose? You can write your answer in the comment section. The correct answer will be announced tomorrow. And that's all for today's Funday News. Be sure to tune in to Funday News from Monday to Friday and click the link below to join Funday for free. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I'll see you next time.